this world is not easy. That's why even the angels bend a knee to you.
Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from thoughtchange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week. If you enjoy our conversations, remember to subscribe, share with a friend. Today we are talking angels. We have Alisha Das with us. Alisha is more than an angel communicator, and you'll find out about that very shortly. Welcome, Alisha.
Thank you so much, Linda. I am really so delighted to be here with you and your listeners.
We are delighted to have you and to have the angels present with us too.
Beautiful. And you do always have angels present with you in each moment.
You know, Alisha, it's really interesting because I do healing work. Mostly it's online now or sometimes by phone, but the odd time I'll have someone actually come in person. And I had one person come once in my small healing room and just tell me there were thousands and thousands of angels in the room with us as we were doing our work. It was really beautiful.
I absolutely believe that and can sense that with you. And they are all around and the worlds are merging. So this is the perfect time. It's so comforting to be aware of that and magical. Right? They're magical.
They are magical, and we need more magic.
We need magic, and we need more coming together, and that reminder that all really is well.
As I was reading about you, you had a cancer experience that opened you up.
I did. Yeah, that was in 2016. I was diagnosed with aggressive uterine cancer and told that I needed immediate surgery, quite a significant surgery. And I knew that, because I had been on such a devout spiritual path, not necessarily religious, although I am an ordained minister. And I told my doctor I just needed some time to heal it. And he told me I just needed some time to schedule the surgery. And so all kinds of, mystical, magical mischief happened, and my pathology slides were lost. And so I went on this deep spiritual journey, and I knew that it was really an opening myself to really do my work. I had been facilitating trainings with my husband, but I had been not really taking the forefront in my work with the angelic and with spirit. I presented in a way that's quite different than is out there. And once I really agreed to fully do my work, full stop, and to absolutely surrender my life to Spirit's life for me, I very much committed to a path of healing, of waking up when I had been a very type A driven personality, and it was really a coming back to the nature of who I am, truly the nature of who we all are. And really making commitments and I did lots of spiritual trainings and psychological trainings at that point, and practicums, which go with when you're getting a master's in psychology. They do practicums, very experiential. And it was about 7 weeks, they finally found my pathology slides, and my doctor left them in the California sun in his car. They had to do another biopsy, and the cancer had so greatly reduced that now surgery was completely optional. I had no allopathic intervention, simply working with a traditional Chinese medical doctor and doing my spiritual work. So when they did the final biopsy, which just have the organ in front of them, there was no cancer. So it's really that full out committing to share the angelic work as I received it, and really to demonstrate the efficacy of archangelic work and healing, because that's all I did. That was really to demonstrate that this work is real.
Beautiful, beautiful story, Alisha. We have something in common because I had a cancer experience probably, 40 years ago, probably.
Oh, wow.
And was given a year to live. And,
oh my goodness.
Took my path down alternative therapies and energy healing and self-exploration. And, here I am, right? So
Beautiful.
Miracles happen every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And 40 years, goodness.
And I'd say I probably had a little help from some angels too, right? So the angels came knocking on your door a big way. Why don't you share how that opened up for you, that you knew you had to kind of be their voice in the world so that we could tap in and work with them more effectively?
Linda, it still occurs almost every day. I start my day. I'm writing a few books right now for Penguin Random House. That's the first one, and called Your Angelic Ancestry. It actually was entitled Your Archangelic Ancestry, but nobody could say archangelic. For me, I've been saying it forever, but everybody was tripping over that. So I start every day with just absolutely surrendering before I was to write. And it's interesting how it's still, even though I've been doing this for decades, this very specific practice, I will still resist it because it takes such a surrender and an opening to the awesomeness of spirit to allow the angels to bring through messages. And angel means messenger. And so we're all a messenger of God. And so I'm kind of answering your question in the long form. But really, just all to say that every day I still am choosing back. I started my first conscious experience with angels was when I was 4. And that was a whole adventure, really lifelong. I grew up in the Midwest. And so when I would share these things with people that I couldn't know, especially as a child, it freaked them out. We're talking the Midwest in the late 60s and 70s and 80s. And so I was very quiet about it until I moved to New York. Well, until I moved to Atlanta and then New York, and then I could be more vocal about it. So it's both a lifelong process and it's an everyday choosing back in and greater, choosing into an ever greater, because we always are growing, right? We never get to arrive. It's enlightening. It's not enlightened.
I'm curious about the idea of having angelic or archangelic ancestry. So can you explain that for me a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. That's what the whole book is about. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. I'm actually, my whole family, we have a disease in the family, which it's called being a physician. And everybody are physicians. So I come from very much a scientific background. I was pre-med, always in school even as recently as a few years ago, always learning. And the degrees are just sort of secondary to what's the efficacy of this spiritual work? What's the empirical results? How can we measure there's change and improvement in your life, right? So, and I give you that as an foundation to what I'm about to share, because it'll sound a little out there, But I vetted it over many decades with my spiritual teacher, with my partner, who's considered a counselor to gurus, and with many, many, many clients and class participants. So, I would receive information and then I would go share it and say, what do you think? Does this working for you too? And then I kept seeing the sea of nodding heads and that would spur me on. So in my experience, and it's very well accepted with spiritual teachers, that this human experiment is a latter-day experience, right? That it's a pretty new creation compared to much more ancient creations. And so in my experience, the angelic predated the human by eons and is much more, and it still exists, because of course we know time and space are illusions. Right? Can we go with that?
This is exploring the mystical side of life. So you're fine. You're fine.
Perfect. So since time is an illusion, and angels, by the way, they live in infinity, eternity and infinity. They're not bound by time and space. So that's part of the advantage of working with them. It takes us out of this time and space construct, which is divinely ordained. There is a reason for it, but ultimately it's an illusion. So in my experience, the angelic predated the human by eons, and angels are much more profuse than humans. There's a lot more angels than humans. So angels are born in oneness with God, a collective, but they're not born with individuation, free will. Humans are born, we're born with free will. We can, lop our baby sister on the head. We can do whatever we want as long as it's allowed. And most things are allowed, which, does answer the question of like, why are these things being allowed? Because we have free will, right? So humans evolved to the God consciousness, which an angel is born in. And angels evolved to the individuation of the human, right? When they become an archangel. And so once they become an archangel, now they experience free will. Now they don't have that convenient archangel above disseminating the will of God. And at some point, so angels would evolve into archangels, but it took a long time. Because if you're one with will of God, right, and you never have to worry about what's the highest way, what's the highest voice, it's wonderful, but it can take a while to really grow and evolve. So at some point, God, spirit, the universe, the creative force, incepted this physical level. We have these body things, we have time and space, etc. And humans with free will, born with free will, not evolving to it, right? And so we then started to evolve, and whether that's, again, we're subscribing to reincarnation, many lifetimes. And at some point, the realms were blended. Our guardian angels came into the human level. Certainly we connected with archangels, etc. And then an even more dramatic occurrence, archangels, the soul, started incarnating into the human level as humans, their soul still having the archangelic acumen, but there had to be a big opaque curtain, if you will, between us and our angelic past. Because if you compare the challenges of this level with that kinder, gentler realm where, we slipped into our pastel robes and praised God, who we never forgot, right? This would seem very difficult, and it can seem very difficult. And in the book, I talk about the astrological and karmic dispensations or occurrences that predict and underscore the ability now of humans to start to remember their archangelic heritage, not to go back in time and space, but to bring it present and go beyond time and space.
That's a very different way of looking at the angelic realm than most people hold. How did you ever awaken to that information?
Well, again, I have been hanging out with angels very consciously since a child, right? I did go through a period of time when everybody was like, you can't know that. Are you a child witch or whatever, right? So I did shut down my sight for a while, but really it started opening up a lot more once I went to boarding school at 15. So this is a lifelong endeavor. And at some point I started hearing the angelic language, hearing and speaking the angelic language. And that really opened up my awareness. And as I shared, with my story of healing cancer, I was hesitant to put this out because it is different, right? And I think as women, especially, we're really conditioned to belong as a survival mechanism. And then I was very involved in this spiritual organization that was much more patriarchal, and there's a teacher and you're a student. And so I probably needed that wake-up call of the cancer called like life or death, babe. You're going to do what you were born to do or not. And so they kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse, right? I mean, I could have, but I didn't. And it's also hearing from so many people in person, with clients and class participants, certainly online, and then even on the net, social media, so they're going, oh my God, you explained why I struggle in this world, why I feel like there's this magical place and even identity that is just under the surface. And it makes it hard to want to go on and to live. And once I start opening up to that, then that despair disappears, right? Again, it's a choosing in every day. But once I saw the relief and the release it was bringing to people, that spurred me on.
So we all have guardian angels, right? We all have the ability to call on help from the archangels or any of the leagues of angels. And yet so many people either aren't aware or they don't know how. What would you tell those people?
I would say give yourself the benefit of a doubt. You're very likely already experiencing angels. There's this prevailing myth that angels, have form like us. I mean, there's this very big prevailing myth that God is a bearded man in the sky, right? To me, it's all much more essence and ethereal. So I experience angels most of the day long. Certainly, I can get caught up in bills and stubbing my toes like all the rest of us. But they're to me closer and as tangible as the chair beneath my seat bones. I don't experience them with much form at all. So I would say to people, give yourself the benefit of a doubt and realize that you're probably already experiencing them. You're just looking for them to come in a way that's as tangible as, the wind outside and hearing our voice right now. But we sense angels with spiritual sensing. It's much more subtle, right? So I would say refine your sensing a bit. Go into the silence and realize that, one, yes, you have a guardian angel that never leaves you. And often we'll experience them on the right. Not always, but often, sometimes we'll experience them. I used to experience them as a hand on my shoulder, right? I didn't know who it was for a long time. Then I realized who it was. So I do have on my website, which is simply my name, AlishaDoss.com, I have a guide how to connect to your guardian angel instantly. So there are steps, but it's really to open yourself and realize that you are receiving them, but you don't need to see, a handsome man in a dress or fat babies with bows and arrows, that they're ethereal. And the cool thing about that, Linda, is that then opens us up to start experiencing more of the numinous, more of the ethereal essence of spirit.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Alisha. First being, do you have to ask for help?
Ooh, great question. Do you have to ask for help? Absolutely not. You don't have to ask for help. You have to be open to help. So we've all heard of, the stories of, oh my God, I just about stepped in front of a bus and suddenly, somebody pulled me back and I turn around and there's nobody there, right? And we all have had those experiences of being protected. And so, no, they can absolutely step in and do often, right? If we don't have a window to exit the planet, they're going to slam that window shut. If we're like, oh, I want to see the view, and we lean out too far, they're going to pull us back. I often have a vision of my guardian angel, like sleep deprived, going, I'm going to need a double shot of Amrita after this shift.
And banging their head against the wall, right?
Completely. And with this big trumpet going, dummy, turn around, right? And we're like, what? Did you guys hear something? Right? So we don't have to ask for help, but when we do ask for help, and I would suggest we mostly ask for help from the great archangels, not even just archangels, but the great archangels, which are very, very rare. We are more open to that help, and we are more open to being utilized for us being help. And goodness, I don't know of a greater joy than that. And it could be just speaking peace into the planet. It could be, oh, I am called to public speaking, or I am called to be a coach. And, there is often that yikes, but it's a bigger yikes to not answer our call.
Absolutely. And your soul's always going to push you forward, right?
Yes. I mean, we can push back, but it certainly is painful.
That's for sure. Now, you mentioned being kind of physically aware of their presence on the right side of your body. How do you know whether it's an angel or a guide that's actually present with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And to clarify, I experience them all over, not just on the right side. I was just saying, often when someone is being introduced to their guardian angel, kind of being like, hi, I know you've been here lifelong, but I've been ignoring you. Often it'll be easier to experience them on the right side. So angels are everywhere. So how do you know? Yeah, it's discernment. It's spiritual discernment. For me, because I have been doing this my entire, very immersed in the spiritual. I mean, I moved into an ashram at 23, right? So for me, it's been a lot of practice. And I love the question, and I love opening to greater awareness rather than this vague, oh yeah, it's all God. Yes, of course it's all God. But when you're aware of who's present, in my experience, you're so much more open to their accurate message, to their help, to their experience. So for me, I'm pretty attuned to what's an angel and what's not. I love working with guides and with prophets and with, dead people who have passed long ago, and whether they're masters or certainly the Christ, the Buddha. For me, it's all God. I love the blending of the religions. I know that's a controversial point of view, but at some point you got to choose a side.
A lot of them have very similar teachings and stories if you whittle away all of the dogma, right?
A 1,000,000%. And, angels, that's one of the things I love about angels is they really unite us rather than divide us. There was a fascinating poll by the NORC, University of Chicago, very scholarly, very, secular, and the Associated Press, also very objective. Polling, this is done just in the US, but people of all socioeconomic, religion, gender, no gender, etc., if they believed in angels, 69% believe in angels. This was recent. This was July 2023, I believe. July 2022. And so they unite us, right? People who can't agree on what God is, or if there's a God, can agree that there's angels. So, goodness, at this very divisive time, we were talking about U.S. politics. Oh my goodness, so divisive. In families, mother and father, husband and wife, being split apart by this illusory wall of, take a stand. And angels, there's no wall, there's no division.
Universal, right? Universal language. You mentioned angelic language. Is that like light language?
Light language. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Tell me what you mean so I can answer you accurately.
Well, there's a lot of people that express that they channel light language, and it's kind of like talking in tongues, except they consider that they are connecting with some wiser, higher consciousness, perhaps, maybe intergalactic beings that bring information, spiritual wisdom, guidance through. It's sort of like that.
Well, I'll answer how I answer, and then feel free to ask me to clarify. Is it a light language as far as how I'm understanding that context? Yes and no. It is a different language. It's not a human language. It is a language that is experiential. So early on, when I first started hearing it, which was, well over 30 years ago, something like that. No, I started hearing it, but I didn't know what it was until about 26 years ago, 25 years ago, 27, I don't know, a long time. So it's a language that brings an experience. And for me, I'm like, well, do I translate, word for word? And I heard, no, you use it to connect to a higher source. So it's a language that communicates much more than just words, right? It communicates an experience, an essence. So, see, to me, how I would interpret light language is it's a way of communication that can be understood, but is not like we use words. It's more of understanding with the way you can receive communication that goes beyond words.
think that's a really good definition. Perhaps the difference would be the source of the communication.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. So for me, and I do hear other languages. So that's just kind of my thing, which kind of makes sense because angels are messengers, right? So communication. And they, by the way, in my experience, don't use words. They communicate telepathically because it's essence. It's not physical, right?
It's more efficient too.
Definitely. Definitely. And less room for manipulation or deception. Not that that doesn't exist there. You know, there's a guy named Lucifer and etc. There are fallen angels and demons and all that, but it is much more efficient and more direct, more pure, if you will.
So do you actually channel angelic language, or is it just something that you know the angels are near and they're, let's say, maybe adjusting your energy or bringing you some wisdom?
We'd have to define our terms because channel is used rather ubiquitously, right? And so it would depend on your definition, but definitely I can speak the language. I do hear it. I can hear it at any moment. And it does take me into an experience and an attunement and an alignment. I do bring forward messages. So in that way, do I channel? Certainly. Although I'm cognizant, I make sure that I'm not in a trance. I do give over, but I make very sure that the source is positive and pure and true first, because can they fool us? Not just angels. Any non-physical being can fool us, right? And we all know that. So we want to keep our discernment present. So yeah, I channel them, but I'm cognizant. And some part of me is always watching to make sure that it stays true. Because it's like we can be true, right? So I do it slowly. And the rest of my life, I move way too fast. But when I am bringing forward messages from them, I'm methodical.
Well, they say the devil doesn't come knocking with his pitchfork and horns visible, right?
Right.
Exactly. Are you open to channeling a message for the listeners?
Sure. So if you're driving, don't close your eyes. If you are not, if you could close your eyes. And if you are driving or walking, just open your heart. And just be aware that who you are is eternal, is infinite, is the greatness of existence itself. That who you are goes well beyond the body temple. And you can know that self. And then you can know what is beyond the self. Like the ocean of God. You can dive into the ocean and at some point realize you are one with that. You are one with the goodness of life. We angels honor the courage of you humans, for it is not an easy level or an easy place. We learn by your choices and we learn by serving you. And the benefit to you of working with us is to turn your countenance up to that which is eternal, that which is true love itself, whether you call it universe, God, or the Divine Mother, is immaterial. And literally it is immaterial. But what is important is that you call upon the highest and the most immanent spirit of love within you and know that you are ultimately one with that beautiful ocean of love. Be of good cheer. While it seems so much intensity is on the planet, there is much light as well. We never leave you and we never shall, for we are one in the ocean of God with you. And so be it. Amen.
Beautiful message.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you work specifically with archangels by name? There's many people who will call Archangel Michael or Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
You actually do that. Do you know who the message came from today?
It's funny, I didn't ask before, but let me ask now. It came from a few angels. Often they're because angels are in a collective. I mean, they have individuation, but ultimately they don't. I'm sort of doing doublespeak here. But often it is one that will come forward or one that's already present that we tune into. In this case, it was two. It was actually Archangel Ariel, R-I-L, a little bit closer to the angelic language. And then also Archangel Raphael. So yes, I do work with them by name. There are many great archangels. So I have to figure out, as far as I'm aware, the biggest number is Googleplex. There's Googleplex angels. There's a few million archangels. There's about 150 great archangels. So those are the highest. I recommend we mostly work with the great archangels. We go, how? Intend, right? My spiritual teacher used to say God is intention. So intend to work with the highest angels. And your guardian angel. So yeah, there's Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, etc., right? Ariel in this case today. And then there's also angels that are great archangels that have been working in relative anonymity until now. And those I do name, my names I've heard from the angelic language. Those are in the book, just a few of them, because I don't want to overwhelm people. They're not new angels. They're new to being known by humans, right? And so it helps to know their name, but you don't have to. So don't feel like you have to know, but if you can know, it can help you more discern which one is present. And I have a quiz. It's fun. It's lighthearted, but it also has a lot of truth in it, called Which Archangel Are You? And then when you take the quiz and you find out the qualities you share with a certain archangel, and it helps you then know that archangel more. Relating to the angels, first of all, you are tapping into your heritage with them, but also relating to them helps you connect to them much more intimately. Just like if we think of, God or spirit of the universe as some amorphous isness, we don't feel safe with it. We don't connect with it. But if we think of God or spirit as our creator, our mother or father, we're more intimate with it.
And so, all fine and dandy, we're in this dimension, 3-dimension, with angelic helpers. But how can we really utilize their strengths to help us on our path?
Exactly. I love that, Linda. I have a prologue that starts with the book, but the actual first line, I'm going to, spoiler alert here. The actual first line is, this world is not easy. That's why even the angels bend a knee to you. And it's really true. It's like, this place, all the challenges and etc. and, bodies and wars and IRS, right? Well, first of all, I would say it can be an easier bridge to connect with your guardian angel. I appreciate that. And I do connect with them, but I tend to focus more on the archangels. So how does it help us? There's several benefits. First of all, angels, especially archangels, especially great archangels, are one with God. They're one with spirit. So if we want to be aware of like, oh my gosh, this thing is happening that's so challenging, but if I can get above it, there's a great Einstein quote where he says, don't solve a problem at the level at which it was created, right? So if we get above it and we have this altitude and we go, here's what I'm to learn in this. Here's what I'm to contribute in this. Here's what I'm to model or teach in this. Then we can, one, see a solution, but two, even more importantly, is the way in which we approach it. Fritz Perls said, how you relate to the issue is the issue. And that was something that I have had many teachers, two of them, Ron and Mary Holnick, really drove that home through the University of Santa Monica. And it's really about angels help us get this altitude, which gives us great attitude, which helps us navigate life with much less stress, with much greater faith, with much more joy, because we know, gosh, this thing isn't just happening to me. Even though it doesn't feel like it in this moment, it's for me. and I can approach it in a way where I can use it for my spiritual advancement. So they help us align with spirit because they're one with spirit. So they help us align with that higher action, and they give us guidance. They're not giving us guidance. They're helping us align to higher guidance, to God's guidance, spirit's guidance. And also they help us open to our angelic ancestry. So angels, all the things we love about angels, beauty, love, truth, joy, grace, right? They help impart those qualities to us.
Beautiful. Alisha, what's one last thing you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Well, I'm going to let the angels share it again. And this is Michael, my Archangel Michael. The way is not always straight. Sometimes the way to the truth of who you are slips around the corner and goes over hills and valleys. So do not expect life to go straight forward. Circumstances will come out of seemingly nowhere. They never are, for you do create, promote, or allow your life. But know that we are there waiting for you around every corner. We have gone to scout the way, to illuminate the higher message for you, always available in every instant as you breathe in love in this moment, all the love of the universe. And as you exhale, let go of anything less than love. As you live, keep breathing in love, breathing out less. For the truth of you is found in the breath of love. And so eventually you will breathe in love, and as you exhale, your breath will be tinged, as you see it on a frosty day, with light. And you will know yourself as living light, living love. We are here for you. Call upon us. Amen.
Such a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Alisha, for bringing Archangel Michael through for us today. Tell us again where we can send people who want to know more about your work and your books.
Thank you for asking. So my website is easy. It's just my name, AlishaDas.com, ALISHADAS for people who are listening.com. So there I have lots of free resources. I have an Angelic Toolkit, which has lots of videos to connect you to the great archangels, tells you even what the heck a great archangel really is. As mentioned, the manual on connecting to your guardian angel instantly. I also have a podcast called Live Your Love, and that's once a month, so you can subscribe to that. And then lastly, my books coming out. I have 2 books launching with Penguin Random House, and you can get on my book launch list. And I'm already starting to release excerpts from the book and share content now so that you don't have to wait for it to come out to connect to these beautiful beings.
Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Linda. It's been a delight. And thank you for sharing your story with me. Quite moving.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen. That's it for this week. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.